She stood in front of 100 people and said it like I wasn't even there. In every wedding, she laughed, you get a few nobodies who show up just for the free food. Laughter. Even her mother smiled. I folded my napkin slowly. Watched the candle burn low. I didn't clap. Didn't blink. Just reached into my purse, and touched the envelope. The one with the venue's receipt. Paid in full. She didn't know. None of them did. That's fine. The judge can talk now. The quiet didn't feel empty back then. It was warm. Predictable. Soft like folded towels and humming appliances. My mornings were always the same. Open the curtains halfway. Start the kettle. 2 slices of bread, always the ends, always for me. The sun would come in crooked across the counter. I'd stand there, waiting for the pop of the toaster like it mattered. Small things did, once. On Tuesdays, I'd crochet by the window. White yarn, delicate hooks, and a pair of reading glasses that never stayed put. Half my patterns were baby blankets I'd never give. The other half, repairs to blankets from long ago. My favorite one had little daisies. She used to sleep with it wrapped around her shoulders, even when it was warm. She said it smelled like me. Back then, that was a good thing. They all moved on. I stayed in the house we built. Brick by brick. Memory by memory. Quiet by design. My daughter used to call me every Friday. Lately, it was once a month. Usually to ask about the check. Just until tax season ends, Ma. Promise. I never asked her to explain. 12 years ago, I paid off their second mortgage. Her husband had lost his job, or quit, it was never clear. I wired it quietly, used my husband's life insurance. She didn't ask. I didn't wait for thank you. I still send banana bread on her birthday. No card. No message. Just warmth wrapped in foil. Sometimes it comes back, unopened. But I keep sending it. Because that's what grandmothers do. She was born the week my husband died. My granddaughter. 10 fingers, big lungs, and hair that smelled like milk. I held her before her mother did. Nobody remembers that. Every summer until she was 10, she lived in my house. We made blueberry jam and watched black and white movies on VHS. She used to draw us as cartoon squirrels in little aprons. One year, she made me a Mother's Day card. Scribbled in orange marker. To my real mommy, who always listens. I kept that card. Still do. It's faded now, curled at the edges. The only thing that's ever made me feel chosen. They don't visit much. She got busy with college, then the fiancé, then the new house I helped them furnish. I sent gift cards with no return address. Anonymous help tastes better than guilty gratitude. The wedding plans came in bits. A forwarded email here, a whispered update there. I was told the date through a neighbor who saw the invitation. I smiled, nodded. Said how happy I was for them. I bought my dress second-hand. A soft plum color with lace along the sleeves. Sensible shoes. Small earrings. Nothing that would pull focus. I called the venue 3 months before the wedding. Paid the balance. Didn't tell anyone. The woman on the phone asked, "Would you like to leave a note for the couple?" I paused. Then said no. What could I possibly write? I didn't need the spotlight. Just wanted her to have the day she dreamed of. Even if I wasn't in it. Even if I had become invisible in her story. Some days, I sat in the hallway, just staring at the old photographs. Her missing tooth smile at age 6. Pigtails. A Halloween costume I stitched myself. There were years when she couldn't sleep unless I lay beside her. I don't think she remembers those years. I do. Every stitch. Every night light. Every time I sang, "You Are My Sunshine," with a catch in my throat. I was never truly lonely. Just quietly replaced. And when she stood in that reception hall, glowing and golden and untouchable, I didn't expect a spotlight. Just a glance. A smile. A whisper of remembrance. But silence echoed louder than applause that night. And I sat in table 14. Among strangers. Holding that envelope like it meant something more than numbers. The peace I once lived in was not a gift from others. It was the prize I gave myself for staying gentle when life turned cold. And I didn't know it then. But that night would be the last time I gave without question. The last time I mistook silence for safety. The last time I thought love didn't need to be seen to be real. Because being forgotten isn't the same as being quiet. And I had been quiet. For far too long. It started with tape. Clear, curling at the corners. Holding a sheet of printer paper against the fridge. I wasn't meant to see it. I'd come by to drop off fresh sourdough. Still warm. No one was home. Door was unlocked. I stepped inside, like I used to, like I was still allowed. The kitchen smelled like hairspray and wilted flowers. I saw the paper before I meant to. Seating chart, final. Table 1, bride and groom. Table 2, parents. Table 3, groom's siblings and partners. Table 4, bride's friends. Table 5, college roommates. Table 6, groom's cousins. Table 7, bride's co-workers. Table 8, extended family. Table 9, church group. Table 10, groomsmen overflow. Table 11, bride's aunts. Table 12, vendor comps. Table 13, kids plus miscellaneous. Table 14, older guests / extras / unassigned. There it was. In pencil. My name. Spelled wrong. Next to unassigned. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just pressed the bread against my chest and kept reading. Below the chart was a sticky note. Anonymous donor confirmed. Don't forget to thank sponsors. Double check with DJ if needed. They didn't even write my name. Not even for themselves. My ears rang, but the house was silent. Only the faint ticking of a wall clock shaped like a chicken. I used to hate that thing. I placed the bread on the counter. Careful. Gentle. Pressed the tape back down. Made sure it didn't peel at the edge. Then I walked out. In the car, I sat for a while. Keys in hand. Engine off. I didn't cry. Didn't gasp or clutch my chest like in the movies. Just breathed. One slow inhale. One longer exhale. The trees didn't care. The wind didn't shift. Nothing in the world moved with me. And maybe that was the worst part. That the world stayed the same when mine had changed. I drove home the long way. Past the elementary school where I once watched her skip out with painted macaroni stuck in her hair. Past the bakery she loved when she was 6. The one that sold cookies shaped like animals. I always bought her the elephant. By the time I got home, it was dark. I put the kettle on. Sat in my favorite chair. And just stared at the envelope. The gold one. Embossed with the venue's logo. Tied with a white satin ribbon. Inside, the final receipt. $14,872. Paid in full. My name on the check. My handwriting. Still careful, still neat. I took out a pen. Wrote on the back of the envelope. For your records. Then I placed it inside my coat. Right pocket. Over the heart. Later that night, I opened the cedar box in my closet. The one I hadn't touched in years. Inside were letters. Birth announcements. Doodles. And a little ivory place card. From a church luncheon years ago. Handwritten, Elaine M., honored guest. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it was the last time anyone had called me honored. I slipped it into my purse beside the envelope. 2 names. One real. One forgotten. The place card was soft now. Faded. But still legible. Still mine. That night, I sat in silence. No TV. No music. Just the creak of the floorboards and the settling of old wood. It was the kind of silence that doesn't comfort. The kind that counts your breaths and measures your heartbeats. And I sat inside it like a confession. I thought of that sticky note. Sponsorship confirmed. Like I was a budget line. I thought of the pencil. Not even ink. Not even permanent. As if I could be erased at any moment. And maybe I already had been. I looked around the room. Photographs on the mantel. Every one of them chosen by me. Framed by me. Held in place like truth. But truth isn't what people remember. It's what they choose to see. And she had chosen not to see me. The next morning, I washed the bread pan. Cleaned the kitchen. Threw out the last few slices. They'd gone stale overnight. Isn't it strange how quickly things harden, when no one reaches for them? I sat at the window and watched a bird peck at the earth. Nothing profound. Just a small moment. But I remember thinking. Even the earth offers something back. I never wanted recognition. Not really. I just thought, after everything. She'd know where it came from. Where she came from. Not from money. Not from showy centerpieces or monogrammed napkins. But from hands that baked. A lap that rocked her through fevers. A voice that hummed her to sleep when storms shook the house. But maybe none of that counts anymore. Maybe we're only as real as the name on the guest list. Or the seat we're assigned. Maybe I was just unassigned now. And maybe that was the moment it all shifted. It didn't start with the seating chart. It started long before that. Tiny slights. Quiet omissions. At first, I didn't notice. Or maybe I did, but I softened the sharp edges. That's what love does. It rounds off the corners of pain. Makes excuses sound like patience. The first time was the bridal shower. I called to ask if I should bring anything. There was a pause. Then she said, "Oh, it's mostly just friends my age. But you can come if you want." If I want. I told her I had something else that day. I didn't. I spent that afternoon making lemon bars. Her favorite. I wrapped them in parchment and tied them with twine. Left them on her porch. No note. She never mentioned them. Then came the dress fitting. I saw the photos on social media. Her mother. 2 bridesmaids. Laughing, spinning, holding champagne flutes. Caption, 3 generations of love. I looked again. Her mother's mother wasn't there. Just me. The invisible generation. I liked the post. Heart emoji. She didn't respond. 1 week later, a package arrived at my door. Wrapped in glitter paper. Inside, a teacup and saucer said I'd given her when she moved into her first apartment. It was the exact one. Still had the scratch on the rim. No note. Just returned. Unwanted. I set it on the windowsill. Poured myself a cup of tea in a plain mug. Next came the family group text. A photo of save the dates laid out on a marble counter. I hadn't received one. I checked the mail twice a day for a week. It never came. When I asked my daughter, she said, "Oh, we just figured you knew the date already." I did. But that wasn't the point. There were other things. The handmade quilt I left in her old bedroom, folded, clean, waiting. Gone. When I visited, it had been replaced by a faux fur throw and lavender-scented candles. I asked what happened to the quilt. She blinked, confused. "Oh, that old thing? I think Mom donated it. I stitched that quilt the summer she turned 10. Each patch a memory. One square held the fabric from her first ballet recital dress. Another from a flannel shirt she refused to take off for 3 straight winters. Gone. Like it never mattered. I wanted to believe it was forgetfulness. That she was just distracted. Young. Busy. I told myself. She's just overwhelmed. She'll come around. She still loves me. But love doesn't look away when you wave. It doesn't forget who kept the lights on when everyone else went dark. There was one afternoon, maybe a year before the wedding. We ran into each other at the grocery store. I smiled so wide it hurt. She was with friends. Dressed sharp. Lipstick. Phone in hand. I opened my arms. She gave me a quick one-armed hug. No eye contact. "This is my grandmother," she said. "Sort of like my second mom growing up." "Sort of." Her friend smiled. Polite. I stood there holding canned peaches and a loaf of rye bread. Felt like a museum exhibit. She left first. Didn't look back. Later that night, I baked those peaches into a cobbler. Put 2 plates out. Then wrapped one in foil and set it in the fridge. Old habits. She never came by. But there were good memories once. Warm ones I kept like pocket change. She used to call me Lainey. Only her. "Lainey, can we sleep in the living room tonight? Lainey, can we paint our nails the same color? Lainey, will you tell me the story of how you met Papa again?" We used to bake muffins and sing to the radio. She'd steal spoonfuls of batter and say it tasted better before the oven. She once wrote me a letter after summer camp. Said, "You're the only person who makes me feel like I'm enough." I still have that letter. Tucked into a dictionary. Between grace and grief. It's strange how both can exist in the same place. Dinner for one. That's what it became. Every holiday. Every celebration. I'd make extra. Just in case. She never came. No calls. No apologies. One year, I left her a birthday card. Slipped it under her door. Inside was a necklace with a tiny silver heart. Engraved with her initials. I never saw her wear it. But weeks later, I saw the same necklace in a donation bin at the church. Still in the velvet pouch. I asked the pastor if I could take it back. He looked at me, confused. Said, it didn't have a name. No one claimed it. Neither did I. So I took it home. Placed it in my jewelry box. Beside my wedding ring. 2 things that once meant forever. The hurts weren't loud. They were quiet. Like a faucet that never quite stops dripping. You get used to it. Until one day you realize the floor is soaked. I used to blame myself. Maybe I gave too much. Maybe I should have made her earn it. But love isn't a contract. It's not about who owes who. It's about seeing each other. And I hadn't been seen. In a very long time. The music was too loud. People were laughing, clinking glasses, dancing like they couldn't feel the weight of anything. Like nothing had ever hurt them. I sat at table 14. Folding my hands. tracing the rim of the water glass. Ice already melted. No one said my name. Not once. Even the waiter paused, uncertain, holding the plate. Chicken or fish? I answered softly. He nodded. Moved on. She floated past me in white and gold, glowing like candlelight. My granddaughter. My baby. The same girl who once stood barefoot in my kitchen and said, "I want to get married just like you and Papa. Forever." I didn't recognize her anymore. Not the laugh. Not the gaze. Not the silence. They danced to a song I didn't know. She leaned her head on his shoulder like she belonged there. I used to be that shoulder. I watched as the bouquet soared into the air. Someone caught it behind me. I didn't turn to see who. Instead, I remembered. A spring morning. Dandelions in her tiny fist. She was 5. Wore pink rain boots and carried a chipped plastic tiara. She walked up to me, proud as anything, and said, "These are for you. Because you're the best." She held them like treasure. Wilted little stems and yellow fuzz. I kept those dandelions in a book for years. Until they crumbled. That's what I thought of as the guests roared and the DJ called out names. That tiny voice. That tiara. Gone. Someone started a toast. The groom's father. He said family is what builds us. He said the bride was raised by strong women. He didn't mention me. I cut my chicken. Ate slowly. Swallowed tears with lukewarm water. Behind me, people laughed. Said I looked like someone's +1. Said, maybe she's with the vendors. No one corrected them. I reached into my purse. Touched the place card. The one that still bore my name. From a time when I was considered honored. Not an afterthought. Not a shadow. I didn't leave. Not yet. I wanted to see her smile once more. Not for me. Just to remember what it used to look like. But when she spoke into the microphone, that smile turned to something else. Performance. Distance. "I'm so lucky," she said. "I had the best upbringing. My mom is my best friend." She looked toward her mother, beaming. No mention of summers spent in my garden. No mention of bedtime stories or Sunday pancakes or the way she used to call me Lainey like it meant something. I heard people clapping. I heard forks on china. I heard my heart slow down. There was a moment. Just one. Where she looked out at the crowd. Her eyes skimmed past me. Paused. And then moved on. Like I was wallpaper. Forgotten. I reached for my wine. It was warm. Untouched. I remembered holding her as a baby. Her feverish little forehead against my chest. I sang to her while the storm raged outside. Rocked her through the thunder. I whispered, "You're safe." She believed me. Back then. I took the gold envelope from my purse. Held it in my lap. Pressed my fingers over the seal. Inside was the reason she had this night. The chandeliers. The plated dinners. The band. All of it. Me. But I wasn't part of it. I was decoration. Scenery. A placeholder in a dress too modest to be remembered. One word echoed in my chest. Over and over. Empty. Not the table. Not the chair. Not the plate. Me. I closed my eyes. And suddenly, I was younger. Holding her hands as she stood on my feet, dancing in the living room. She was 4. Giggling. Singing out of tune. "Don't let go, Lainey." Never, I'd promised. And now? She had let go. Long ago. Quietly. Without a fight. Another toast. Another speech. Another round of applause. I stood. Silently. Tucked the envelope back into my purse. Folded my napkin. Left it gently on the plate. I didn't say goodbye. To anyone. No one would have heard me anyway. As I stepped outside, the night was colder than I expected. The stars looked unfamiliar. Or maybe it was me who had changed. I walked to my car slowly. Like grief had weight. Like love had gravity. Before I opened the door, I looked back one last time. The lights. The laughter. The shimmer of everything I had paid for. And not one moment of it was mine. I sat behind the wheel. Hands trembling. Not from age. But from something deeper. Loss that doesn't have a name. Grief without a funeral. My phone buzzed. A text from an old neighbor. Watching the live stream. Your granddaughter looks beautiful. I didn't reply. I looked at the Ivory Place card again. Smoothed its corners. It had more value than anything I was handed that night. The name on that card? It still meant something. To me. Because long before the chandeliers and speeches. Before the dress and the diamond. Before she learned to forget me. I was everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just stared at the ceiling and listened to the house breathe. Old houses do that. Settle around you like a witness. They remember who was loyal. Who left. Who stayed silent. By morning, the sun had nothing new to offer. Just the same light. On the same floors. For a woman who had finally run out of reasons to be ignored. I made a list. Not on paper. Just in my head. Of what was mine. And what no longer would be. First, the account. The wedding had come and gone. The final installment of the venue fee hadn't been due for another week. I paid it early. Out of respect. Out of love. Not anymore. I walked into the bank wearing my navy coat and soft heels. The same coat I wore to her graduation. She'd forgotten to invite me there, too. But I went. I sat in the last row, behind a pillar. I clapped anyway. The banker smiled. Mrs. Reeves. How can we help today? I slid my ID across the counter. Asked to close the joint savings. The one my daughter had access to. The one she called our family emergency cushion. Funny how I'd never used it for myself. Only them. He blinked. Are you sure? I nodded. Didn't speak. Just signed where he pointed. Would you like a check or wire transfer? Check. One word. No tremble. I folded it once. Placed it in the same purse that had held the envelope. The one they all ignored. From there, I went to the venue. Not during peak hours. Just after noon. When the hall would be half-lit and hollow. The receptionist smiled too brightly. Still had glitter on her eyelids. Oh, were you a guest? Her eyes scanned my face. Probably looking for the bride in me. Couldn't find her. I reached into my bag. Took out the receipt. Mrs. Reeves, I said quietly. I sponsored the event. I'd like a copy for my records. And a signature confirming completion. She blinked. Stammered. Oh. Oh, of course. Of course. No apology. Just paperwork. I signed nothing. Took what was mine. Left what they took for granted. Before I left, I paused near the ballroom. White petals still scattered on the floor. A lone table card read, reserved. Not for me. I didn't walk in. Just stood at the doorway. Looked once. Then turned. I didn't need to be remembered. I just needed to stop forgetting myself. On the way home, I passed by the old library. The one she used to love. We'd sit for hours in the children's section. She always picked the book with the fox on the cover. Said it reminded her of me. Quiet but clever. I parked the car. Walked inside. It smelled the same. Paper and carpet and time. At the donation counter, I opened my purse. Took out the place card. The ivory one that still had my name. I slipped it into the front cover of the Velveteen Rabbit. Our favorite. The one we used to read every June. Then I walked out. Left it there. For another child. Another grandmother. Silent scene. Back home, I walked to the mailbox. Took off the nameplate, Elaine and family. Unscrewed it slowly. The metal cold against my fingers. Then I dropped it into the trash bin. No words. No ceremony. Just the sound of it landing. Final. I walked inside. Wrote a new label. Plain and clean. Elaine Reeves. That night, I made dinner. 1 plate. Candles lit. No sadness. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows release. The stillness after you let go of holding the wrong door open for too long. I turned off my phone. Unplugged the answering machine. They could call. Let it ring. I no longer owed them my ears. I didn't need revenge. Or scenes. Or witnesses. I needed space. Air. And finally, silence that belonged to me. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace? And then realized, the peace never included you? Because that's what I learned. Too late, maybe. But not never. The world doesn't fall apart when you say no. Sometimes, it finally starts to rebuild. It had been 2 weeks. Not a word. No thank you. No explanation. Not even a whisper of regret. I'd stopped expecting it. But part of me still waited, the way old habits do. By the window. Beside the phone. Near the door. I kept busy. Or tried. But grief has clever ways of finding you. Even when you're folding laundry. That's when the second betrayal came. Not loud. Not obvious. Just, wrong. I was sorting linens when I found the envelope. Tucked inside a cookbook. The one she'd given me years ago with a note inside, for all our future recipes. Love, your little fox. The note was gone. So was the memory. But inside, I found a printed document. Folded twice. Misplaced, maybe. But not forgotten. Refinance authorization, secondary cosigner, Elaine Reeves. Date stamped, 6 months ago. My name. My signature. Or rather, a version of it. Shaky. Unfamiliar. But close enough to pass. Forged. I stood there, fingers pressed to the paper. The kind of paper that makes your hands sweat. That ruins your breath. The kind that rearranges what you know about the people you raised. I checked the numbers. The property address. Their home. My daughter's house. The same one I helped pay off more than a decade ago. They'd refinanced it using my name. Used my credit. Risked my security. Without ever asking. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. A clerical error. But the truth was sharp. Intentional. Because someone had to sign. And it wasn't me. I sat down. Tried to breathe. Tried to make the room stop spinning. They used me. Not once. Not quietly. But systematically. And they didn't stop at money. They took my name. My trust. My good standing. And they never looked back. I remembered when she was 12. She'd broken a neighbor's window. Terrified. Shaking. I told her to tell the truth. She did. She cried the whole time. Later, she whispered, "Lainey, even when I mess up, you still love me, right?" "Yes," I said. Because truth keeps love alive. But what happens when the truth dies? What does love become then? I took the forged document and placed it beside the gold envelope. 2 pieces of proof. One of generosity. The other of theft. I picked up the ivory place card. Ran my thumb over my name. Real ink. Real identity. Real self. I remembered the summer she made me that card. We were at a church picnic. She took an old place card from the pastor's table and scribbled, "My hero," on the back. Then she tucked it into my pocket and giggled. Now I held it like a relic. Not from her. But from someone I once believed she was. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. Not just from the wedding. But from the ledger. The family. The story. Later that evening, I went to the closet and unlocked the cedar box. The one I hadn't touched since my husband passed. Inside were records. Canceled checks. Signed loan documents. Every quiet yes I'd ever given. I found the check from the wedding. $14,872. The original carbon copy still intact. I flipped through every file. Years of sacrifice. No thanks. No recognition. I realized something brutal that night. I was never the emergency plan. I was the resource. Not a mother. Not a grandmother. Just a vault. To open. To empty. To forget. And when it was dry? Leave it. I stood in my hallway. Looked at the old photo of her hugging me in front of the garden. She was 6. Missing a front tooth. Holding my hand like it was her world. And I whispered. "Where did you go?" I didn't cry. Grief this deep doesn't fall. It sinks. Heavy. Quiet. I gathered the documents. The forged signature. The receipt. The check stub. Tied them with a ribbon. Not to give. To keep. As a record. Of who I was. And how little it meant to them. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was personal. Spiritual. Because when someone uses your love as leverage, that's not survival. That's abandonment dressed as family. I sat at the kitchen table. Lit a candle. Held the old place card in one hand. And the forged contract in the other. One said I mattered. The other said I didn't. That night, I made tea. No sugar. No lemon. Just warmth. For myself. Because it was clear now. They had already left me behind. And the only thing worse than being left behind is realizing they never meant to take you with them at all. I didn't tell anyone. Not the bank. Not the police. Not even the friend who still called every Sunday to check if I was breathing. Some trespasses don't deserve legal fire. They deserve absence. A full and final one. The day I made my decision, the air smelled like rain. Even though the sky was clear. The kind of day where endings feel close. But not sad. I started with the roses. The garden had gone wild over the years. Bushes leaning into one another, thorns tangled, petals dropping too soon. Just like us, I thought. Too close. Too careless. I trimmed back what was dying. Watered the roots. Whispered a thank you into the soil. Then I ordered a bench. Nothing fancy. Just smooth wood, curved arms. I had it engraved with a single line. She remembered herself. I placed it beneath the sugar maple. The one where she used to sit with her lemonade and storybooks. The one I hadn't visited in years. It wasn't grief anymore. Not exactly. It was clarity. That week, I contacted an attorney. A quiet man. Didn't ask questions he didn't need answered. We updated the will. Removed names. Added new ones. I left the house to a local women's shelter, the one I used to bake pies for when I still believed kindness came back. I left the savings to a scholarship fund. Created in the name she used to sign her drawings with. Little Fox. Because that child deserved to exist somewhere. Even if the woman she became had no use for me. I kept one thing. Just one. The Ivory Place card. I had it pressed flat between two panes of glass. Framed it in black. Hung it above the entryway. Not for visitors. For me. A reminder. I had a name. I had value. Even when no one clapped for it. I cleaned the house top to bottom. Not like I was preparing for guests. More like I was making room for the woman I forgot to be. I donated the wedding dress I'd kept from my own marriage. The one I once thought she might wear. I imagined it on a stranger. A girl who still believed in vows. I smiled. That was the difference. I didn't act out of rage. I acted out of return. Returning to the core of myself. The version who gave love gently. But not endlessly. I brewed coffee without waiting for anyone to join me. Ate dessert before dinner. Read mystery novels out loud to no one. I opened the windows. Let the air stir things. Let it carry out what no longer fit. One afternoon, I went to the local college. Met with a counselor. Told her about the scholarship. Gave her the check. She asked if I wanted it in my name. I said no. Make it hers. Her childhood self. The one who loved elephants and vanilla milk. The one who said, "You're my real mommy," like it meant safety. Let that version of her help someone. Let the part of her that was good. Still do good. Because I didn't want revenge. I wanted redirection. One day, the doorbell rang. A man stood there. Mid-40s. Fidgeting. He was from the shelter. Said he'd come to thank me. That the house would change lives. I nodded. Didn't cry. Just handed him the keys. The very same ones I used to turn while whispering, "I hope she's home." Now they were going somewhere else. Where someone might finally feel home. Before he left, I gave him one more thing. The gold envelope. Still sealed. Still heavy. Inside was the receipt. The check stub. And a note that read, "This is what love looks like when no one says thank you." He looked at me. Didn't speak. Just nodded. Sometimes silence says it best. That evening, I walked to the bench. Sat down. Pressed my palm against the engraving. She remembered herself. Yes. I had. I had remembered the girl who laughed without checking who was watching. The woman who built without asking for credit. The mother who loved twice as hard to make up for absence. And now. The woman who gave not because she had to. But because she chose to. Would you have walked away, or taken everything back? And if given the chance, would you hand over the past? Just to make peace with the future? Because I did. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel lesser. I felt whole. It started with a voicemail. 3 weeks after the wedding. I didn't recognize the number at first. But the voice was familiar. Unsteady. Thin. "Hi, it's me. Mom said you've been quiet. I didn't know everything. I'm sorry if can we talk?" She didn't say my name. Not once. I listened to the message twice. Not because I missed her. But because I wanted to hear the hesitation. To hear her stutter. To hear that maybe, finally, the silence wasn't mine. I didn't call back. The next day, my daughter showed up. Unannounced. Uninvited. She brought pastries I didn't eat. She brought small talk I didn't answer. "I didn't know she invited you to that table," she said. As if the insult was the error. Not the erasure. I asked her how long she'd been forging my name. She blinked. Didn't deny it. Didn't apologize either. "It was just temporary," she whispered. "We needed help. You always helped." I poured my tea. Didn't offer her any. She looked around the house like she expected it to look the same. Like time had paused, waiting for her to reappear. But I'd changed the curtains. Moved the photos. Taken down the cross-stitched family tree she'd once praised. It now hung in the hallway at the shelter. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. But I didn't close my fingers either. She started to cry. "I don't know what happened," she said. I almost answered. Almost reminded her. But some things don't need narration. They just need to be felt. She left without asking for money. That alone told me everything. That evening, another call came. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. Her voice again. "I just want to say thank you. I know now. I know what you did. All of it." She was crying. Or trying not to. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was caught up. I was stupid. But you were always there, and I didn't see it until." A pause. Sniffling. "If there's any way I can fix it. I want to." Click. I sat on the edge of the bed. Held the phone. Let the weight of those words settle in the quiet. Fix it. As if love were a hinge that could simply be oiled and realigned. As if the years hadn't rusted everything in place. She wanted grace now. The kind I used to give without condition. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I didn't want her to suffer. I just didn't want her near. And that's a different kind of strength. I went outside. The bench was warm from the sun. I sat with my back straight. Hands in my lap. The garden was blooming again. Slow. Unhurried. Like healing. I saw them 2 days later. Her and her mother. Pulling into my driveway. I didn't open the door. I watched through the window. Saw them knock. Wait. Whisper to each other like girls caught outside the principal's office. Her mother looked thinner. Older. She clutched a paper bag, banana bread. Mine. Returned. Again. They stood for a while. Then they left. I waited until their car disappeared. Then I stepped outside. Took the bag from the porch. Opened it. Still warm. Still soft. I dropped it into the compost. Kindness doesn't rot. But I no longer ate what was handed back late. Later that night, another voicemail. Her voice cracked. I saw the scholarship name. I saw the bench. I don't know if you did it for me or because of me. But I hope. I hope it means you remember the good. I hope it means I wasn't all bad. I listened. Once. Then deleted it. No rage. No tears. Just space. Clean and wide. For a moment, I pitied them. Then I remembered who I was. The next morning, I made coffee. Watched the sugar dissolve slowly. That day, I didn't check my phone. Didn't look for messages. Didn't wait. Instead, I planted lilies. White ones. Quiet bloomers. The kind that don't beg to be seen. But once noticed. Are unforgettable. That evening, I opened the window. Let in the evening air. Then closed it slowly. Deliberately. Final. Do you believe quiet dignity is stronger than revenge? Because I do. Now more than ever. They came back with tears. But I'd already left. Without ever moving. The sun rose without fanfare. No parade of colors. Just soft light through the east-facing window. Enough to wake the dust. Enough to remind me I was still here. I moved slower now. Not because of age. But because rushing no longer made sense. Not when peace had finally unpacked its bags. I brewed coffee. 1 cup. A new mug. White porcelain with a small fox etched in silver. No words. Just presence. I sat by the bench under the sugar maple. The air smelled of early bloom, lilac, soil, the sharp whisper of dew. The engraving caught the sun just so. She remembered herself. Yes. I had. And I hadn't asked anyone's permission to do it. There was no apology letter. No sudden knock at the door with arms full of regret. No grand revelation. Just silence. And finally. That was enough. I stood from the bench. Walked the path through the garden I'd reshaped. Each flower bed bore a name now. Not theirs. Not mine. But words I hadn't used in years. Belonging. Worth. Voice. Stillness. In the center, I planted a ring of lilies. White. Soft. Almost glowing. I call it the circle of release. Because that's what healing is. Not revenge. Not reclaiming what was stolen. But letting it lie where it fell. And building something else. Inside. Later that morning, I opened the drawer where I used to keep their cards. Birthdays. Mother's Days. All the paper evidence of a role I once wore like duty. I took them out. Scanned each one. Some had her handwriting. Hearts instead of dots over the eyes. Childlike loops. Love once spoken in crayon and uneven spelling. I let myself read one. Just one. Lainey, when I grow up, I want to be like you. You always know how to make sad days go away. That girl was gone. But the truth of that sentence stayed. I did know how to make sadness leave. Not with force. Not with pleading. But by releasing what no longer honored me. I placed the cards into a small fireproof box. Not to burn. Just to bury inside something safer. No longer on display. But not erased, either. Because not everything that hurt stops mattering. Some wounds become quiet monuments. That afternoon, I walked to the river. I hadn't been in years. The water moved the same way. Patient. Steady. Unconcerned by memory. I stood at the edge. Opened my hand. Inside, one single brass key. From the mailbox. The house. The life before silence. It felt warm against my skin. Even after all this time. I held it for a long moment. Let it press its final mark. Then dropped it into the water. No ceremony. No whisper. Just the sound of metal meeting current. Then gone. That key had once meant trust. Then obligation. Then fear. Now? It meant freedom. I stood there until the ripples vanished. Then turned back toward home. That evening, I sat in my favorite chair. The one by the window. Wrapped in the blanket I had stitched years ago. The one she called itchy but comforting. It still smelled like cedar and thyme. I lit a candle. No scent. Just light. Beside me sat the framed place card. Ivory. Ink slightly faded. Still mine. I ran my fingers across the glass. Elaine Reeves. No titles. No roles. Just name. Just self. And for the first time in years, I said it out loud. Elaine. Not Laney. Not Mom. Not Granny. Elaine. Not an echo. Not a placeholder. Not the space between other people's choices. Just me. The house felt different. Not full. But not hollow either. Like a well-built room with good bones. Open. Unashamed. I didn't need them to see it. Didn't need anyone to understand. Because peace isn't something you're handed. It's something you plant. Water. Watch grow. Even when no one claps. And when it finally blooms. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how long it took. I didn't go to another family gathering. Didn't send a birthday text. Didn't answer when the phone rang with familiar numbers. I wasn't punishing. I was preserving. Some things are too sacred to offer again. Not out of spite. But out of clarity. And some gifts, when unwrapped too carelessly, don't get repackaged. They get reclaimed. By the giver. For good. I went to bed early that night. No television. No distractions. Just breath. And softness. And light. And before I turned off the lamp, I whispered. I was never the echo. I was the voice they tried to silence. The key I never gave became the one that freed me. And that, finally, was enough.